Senator, it's my understanding that that notification happens through the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I will check into that and get back to you.
You don't know?
Senator, I don't.
Have you followed up with the U.S. attorneys to say, do you have a system to say, hey, we're about to let this guy out? Would we want to be sure the victim's contacted?
As a former victim's advocate, I share that value, that victim notification should happen. I'll check on the process. And
But you don't know if it's happening?
That's correct, Senator.
Wow. Okay, and come back? Can you help us?
Senator, I can certainly follow up on that issue. I will just say in terms of work we've done in the past, for example, on compassionate release, and going to the Bureau of Prisons, this is before Director Peters was there, and asking them for data on compassionate release, because that was one of the issues that has come up.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm not talking about compassionate release.
No, I understand.
You know, my colleague said we were told that it would save money and it would be in the interest of public safety to release criminals from prison.
Senator John Kennedy grilled Bureau of Prisons Director Colette Peters in a fiery hearing over the First Step Act. Since 2018, over 30,000 inmates have been released, but the Bureau cannot even say how many have reoffended. Senator Kennedy exposed the incompetence and lack of accountability in Washington, while Senator Dick Durbin rushed to defend the act. What does this mean for public safety, for victims, and for the future of American justice? Watch this breakdown and hear the truth the mainstream media won't tell you.
I believe Senator Kennedy still has a first-round opportunity, and I understand Senators Booker and Ossoff would like a second-round opportunity. Senator Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you again, Senator.
I'm a big fan. Director Peters, you're the director of the Bureau of Prisons, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
You used to run the correction system in Oregon, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Oregon legalized drugs, is that right?
That's correct.
Oregon's about to reverse that, is that correct?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the policy proposed to reverse that.
Oh, you just ignored Oregon?
Oregon still has a very special place in my heart, sir.
Okay. You haven't read any of the articles about the reversal?
I haven't, Senator.
You don't know anything about it?
Correct, sir.
Okay, wow. You're in charge of implementing the First Step Act, Director?
That's correct.
How many criminals have you released under the First Step Act?
So First Step Act for the overall release since the initiation of the First Step Act is, I have that exact number in front of me.
You don't know off the top of your head?
Sorry, Senator. So 70% of those that were released, we have about 30,000 individuals that have been released since the passage of the First Step Act.
All right, so you've released 30,000 criminals under the First Step Act. Okay? And how many of them, before you released them, did you contact any of their victims to say we're about to let this guy out?
Senator, it's my understanding that that notification happens through the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I will check into that and get back to you.
You don't know?
Senator, I don't.
Have you followed up with the U.S. attorneys to say, do you have a system to say, hey, we're about to let this guy out? We want to be sure the victim's contacted?
As a former victim's advocate, I share that value, that victim notification should happen. I'll check on the process.
But you don't know if it's happening?
That's correct, Senator.
Wow. Okay, of the 30,000 criminals you let free, how many of them have come back? Have committed a crime again, hurt somebody else?
So that number is one that we're still looking at as it relates to the recidivism rate for those that were released on the First Step Act.
You don't have any idea?
No, Senator.
You don't have anybody at the Bureau that can count?
I do not have that number in front of me today,
So let me
Senator.
get this straight. The First Step Act was passed in 2018. This is 2024, am I right so far?
That's correct.
That's 6 years. And in 6 years, you've let 30,000 criminals go, right?
That's correct.
And you don't have the slightest idea how many of them committed another crime and came back.
I don't have that number in front of me today,
And you
sir.
run the Bureau of Prisons.
That's correct.
And how many employees do you have?
About 40,000 employees.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. General, I know you got a lot to do, but could you give us a hand here? And let's find out whether the First Step Act worked. And how many, if we've released 30,000 criminals after 6 years, our director here doesn't know how many have committed another crime and come back? Can you help us?
Senator, I can certainly follow up on that issue. I will just say in terms of work we've done in the past, for example, on compassionate release, and going to the Bureau of Prisons, this is before Director Peters was there, and asking them for data on compassionate release, because that was one of the issues that has come up.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm not talking about compassionate release.
No, I understand.
You know,
I'm
my
just saying-
colleagues said, we were told that it would save money and it would be in the interest of public safety to release criminals from prison. I didn't vote for it, but the majority rules. And so Congress did it. And Ms. Peters, Director Peters at the Bureau of Prisons, and her colleagues released 30,000 criminals, all of whom are there for a reason, okay? They didn't just go to prison for a free toaster. They were there for a reason. And so her department let them go, and after 6 years, we don't have the slightest idea. Not a single one of the 40,000 of her employees know how many have committed a second crime and come back. So how the hell are we supposed to figure out whether it worked?
Senator,
Your people ought to hide their head in a bag, Director, that you can't come here in front of this Congress and answer that question. I'm sorry, I interrupted you with my speech.
No, that's okay. I was just going to, my bottom line point on it was, I've often looked to those questions on things like compassionate release and other programs. And one of the challenges we found is the department just doesn't have good data on that. Halfway houses. Congress is spending about $500 million a year on halfway houses. There's really not great recidivism data on that either. How well are they working?
Before we do this, we need to find out. Look, I believe in justice. I believe in treating everybody fairly. But there are people out there, I don't know why, if I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. They're not mixed up. They're not confused. They're not sick. It's not that their mama or daddy didn't love them or not enough. They just hurt other people, and they take other people's stuff, and we have to separate them from society. And the director let 30,000 of these folks go and can't tell me today how many have come back. I just find it takes my breath away. With 40,000 people. How many of your 40,000 people are actually coming to work or are still working from home, Director?
The supermajority of our employees come to work every day because we're running 24/7
What percentage are coming to work every day?
The percentage is quite high. I don't have the exact
You don't
number,
know?
But
Well, maybe there's your problem.
the supermajority of our individuals come
If they're
to
not
work
coming
at
to
our
work, they
institutions.
can't give us the answer. I've gone over. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. This is why people hate government and don't trust government.
Today, what we just witnessed in the halls of Congress was nothing short of a disgrace. Senator John Kennedy grilled the director of the Bureau of Prisons, Colette Peters, about the First Step Act and the release of tens of thousands of convicted criminals. The answers we got should shake every single American to the core. Let's get the facts straight. Since 2018, under the so-called First Step Act, 30,000 inmates have been released from federal custody. 30,000 people who weren't locked up for petty misdemeanors. They were there because they committed serious crimes. They hurt people. They stole from people. They broke the law. And 6 years later, the Bureau of Prisons still cannot tell us how many of them reoffended. Not an estimate, not a ballpark figure, nothing. Senator Kennedy asked simple, direct questions. Were victims notified before these criminals were released? The director didn't know. Were there systems in place to protect the public? She didn't know. Of the 30,000 criminals freed, how many committed new crimes? She didn't know. Folks, this isn't a minor oversight. This is total incompetence at the very top of a federal agency that employs 40,000 people and spends billions of taxpayer dollars every year. And here's the kicker. Senator Dick Durbin stepped in with numbers defending the First Step Act. According to him, only 12.4% of released inmates reoffended, compared to 43% in earlier years. That sounds nice on paper, right? But here's the problem. If Durbin has those numbers, why doesn't the Bureau of Prisons have them? Why does a senator know more about recidivism rates than the director of the agency responsible for tracking them? That should alarm every American citizen. Think about what that 12.4% really means. That's over 3,000 criminals who walked out of prison under this law and went right back to hurting innocent people. That's thousands of new victims, thousands of new crimes, thousands of families left wondering why their government prioritized criminals over public safety. And yet, some politicians are celebrating this as a success. If that's success, what does failure look like? Here's the reality. The First Step Act was sold as reform. They promised us it would save money, reduce overcrowding, and give inmates a chance to rehabilitate. But what about the victims? What about law-abiding Americans who deserve to feel safe in their homes, their neighborhoods, and their communities? Once again, Washington pushed through legislation without thinking about the consequences. Once again, bureaucrats failed to do their jobs. And once again, the American people are left paying the price. Senator Kennedy said it best. This is why people hate government. This is why people don't trust politicians and bureaucrats. Because when we ask basic questions, questions that should already have answers, we're met with blank stares and excuses. And when victims are ignored while criminals get released early, Americans lose faith in the very institutions meant to protect them. Now, let's be clear. We are not against fairness. We are not against justice. Every person should be treated with dignity. But there are some people who are in prison because they made choices to hurt, to steal, to destroy. And those people should not be walking free without accountability. Our government's first responsibility is to protect its citizens, not coddle criminals. So, what's the lesson here? We need leaders who are willing to ask the tough questions like Senator Kennedy did. We need people in Washington who put victims first, who demand accountability, and who will not accept, "I don't know," as an answer when American safety is on the line. This hearing should be a wake-up call to every voter. Elections matter. Policies matter. Who you elect determines whether government works for you or against you. And right now, too often, it's working against you. Patriots, stay vigilant. Don't be fooled by fancy statistics and smooth talking. Look at the facts. Look at the failures. And remember this when you go to the ballot box. The future of our country, the safety of our families, and the security of our communities depends on it. This is Congress breaking news. If you believe in truth, if you believe in justice, if you believe in holding government accountable, then hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and family. Together, we can shine a light on government incompetence and fight for an America that puts law-abiding citizens first.